regressiveness, against narrow-mindedness, and against radical thinking. So getting this knowledge transferred into Arabic can hopefully make a difference in people's minds.
So far, the organisation has translated 11,000 scientific articles and added more than 10.1 million words to the Arabic Wikipedia. But students feel there is not only the need for English content into Arabic. Since the early 1980s, Al-Saki Books in London has been translating Arabic literature into English. After fleeing Beirut during the Civil War, Salwa Gaspard established Notting Hill's first Arabic bookshop in 1978. And over the years, she's seen demand rise.
The Arab world is almost unknown. All they knew about it, was the discoveries of Egypt, the Orientalism, etc. And after 9/11, the terrorists. So they didn't really have the feeling of the real people, of the real problem of the people in the Arab world. And this is what the translated literature conveys to them. And it has been going from strength to strength because now many big publishers. It used to be only the niche publishers who would translate Arabic fiction. Now everyone is doing it. Bloomsbury, Macmillan.
More Arab writers are gaining international attention. Moroccan author Leila Soleimani's best-selling novel Lullaby is now being adapted into a movie. While last year, Oman's Joka Al-Harthi won the prestigious Man Booker Prize for her book, Celestial Bodies.
When this book won, we couldn't believe it,
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah, it's the first time an Arabic book wins a major prize in the UK. And I think it's paving the way, to more Arabic translation and more understanding of the real Arabic culture.
So while the road to mutual understanding is still at the start of its journey, it seems from London to Mosul, translation is the key to unlocking the world's doors and connecting knowledge and cultures.
Well, that is a wrap of our show for this week. We very much hope that you enjoyed it, and do be sure to catch all of our episodes online at euronews.com. Before I leave you, here are some socially minded Instagram posts that caught our attention this week. But for now, take care, stay safe, and stay home. I'll see you next time.
Sudanese journalist Yusra says that journalism shines a light on the unknown. And Wafa from Tunisia studies English in order to be able to access information from different parts of the world.
Another one.
An international triple accredited top business school. Join us now. henrysa.ac.za.
WhatsApp Blues on 072 702 1702.
Everybody's having to innovate right now. Everybody's having to change the way they do business, and it's becoming really challenging for some, but some people are really grasping the nettle. One of those stories after Eyewitness News, plus Andy Rice with Heroes and Zeros, Ronak Kapoldis from Signal Risk looking at this corona impact across the African continent. And then we're going to talk homeschooling, how it works this evening here on The Money Show, where it is Eyewitness News time at 7.
This is Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Gladys Mutele. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni says South Africa will not consider funding from the International Monetary Fund, which would be accompanied by a structural adjustment program. The country's economy has been battling poor growth, and with the effects of COVID-19, the situation appears to be more dire. Ray White reports.
Finance Minister Tito Mboweni says when it comes to structural adjustments, the government knows what to do. He says government will revise its fiscal framework to take into account the effects of COVID-19. This comes with the news that the Reserve Bank has readjusted its projected GDP for this year. Governor Lesedi Kganyago made the announcement today when saying that the repo rate was being lowered by 100 basis points.
The bank expects GDP in 2020 to contract by 6.1% compared to minus 0.2% expected just 3 weeks ago.
Mboweni says a number of elements are planned to get the government's fiscal response on track, including the reprioritization of some expenditure towards healthcare and a clear plan to stabilize debt. Ray White, Eyewitness News.
The 2 British men accused of entering the country illegally from Eswatini have now been placed in quarantine at a Durban hospital. 41-year-old James Hackett and 38-year-old Erkin Bali allegedly flouted the Disaster Management Act by entering the country on Sunday. The Durban Magistrates Court heard today that the pair have been tested for COVID-19 and are awaiting their results. Nkosikona Duma has the details.
James Hackett and Erkan Bali are accused of being in possession of a stolen vehicle, violating the Immigration Act and contravening the regulations of the National Disaster Management Act. The pair allegedly evaded arrest at the Kolela border post between South Africa and Eswatini by speeding off from law enforcement officers. Eyewitness News understands that a local guest house owner who was arrested with the pair was released on bail on Sunday, but is yet to appear in court. Kosikona Doom. Eyewitness News, Durban Magistrates Court.
Moving further afield, Lesotho Finance Minister Dr. Moeketsi Majoro says he doesn't believe statistics that say the country has no coronavirus cases and the hospitals will not be able to treat more than 100 patients. The kingdom doesn't have testing capacity, but it has so far sent 23 tests to the NICD in South Africa. It has declared a state of emergency, imposed a lockdown, and announced economic mitigation measures. But in an exclusive interview with Eyewitness News, Minister Majoro has appealed to citizens in South Africa and China not to return home. Ntakwana Ngatane reports.
Lesotho Finance Minister Dr. Moeketsi Majoro says the country has allocated 1.2 billion rand towards its COVID-19 response, and the first priority is screening and testing.
And I'm not confident at all, and I'm not convinced that there are no cases in Lesotho. The risks and the exposures that we see are just completely inconsistent with no case.
Majoro says 93,000 Basotho rushed home on the eve of the lockdown in South Africa, and if another 100,000 are repatriated as many wish, the country's already ailing health system will not cope. He says many Basotho are crossing borders into the country illegally.
There is no bed space like 20,000 in Lesotho. So let's use your number. Let's say 300 comes in. That 300 itself would be a very major burden. We do not want to go more than 100.
Majoro says 2.5 million rand will be spent on upgrading laboratories, and the country will also be assisted by private businesses that are contributing towards more laboratories. Ntakwana Ngatane, Eyewitness News.
And finally, back home, as we head into the third week of a nationwide lockdown, working from home has become the new reality for many. Lounges, kitchens and bedrooms have been turned into offices, and some seem to enjoy the experience. However, there are challenges such as bandwidth and internet connections, trying to manage children at home and other distractions. Kaylin Palm reports.
Kevin Colser says despite exceeding his normal 8-hour shift daily, he enjoys working from home because he's with his family. The father of one wakes up at 6:30. At 7 he sets up the laptop to start working. He says this gives him a 2-hour head start before his son gets into full energy mode.
It is very difficult having a almost 2-year-old little boy in the house. Always wants to play, and I feel very bad saying no to him when he comes to me, so that is why I'd rather just give him that 5 minutes of attention here and there.
Psychologist Kathy Angus says there are advantages such as having a flexible schedule and being able to wear what you like, even though it's said that it's useful to slip on a pair of shoes so that it feels like you're at work. Angus says being disciplined is key.
Going to watch TV does not help. We have to have a routine. The things that you do at home are obviously going to be very different to the things you do at the office. And you're going to be distracted in different ways, and it's much easier to be distracted at home. Also, there's no boss sitting there watching you.
She says it's concerning that people are sitting in front of a computer screen for hours.
It's not good for your body apart from your mind. So people will get stiff, they'll get sore, they'll find they're getting tired faster. And when they have that break, is actually get up out into the garden, stretch up and down.
Kaylin Palm, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $1,728.62 an ounce. The rand's at 18.35 to the dollar, 23.13 to the pound, 20.12 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $30.15 a barrel. A partly cloudy start for Gauteng tomorrow with morning fog patches becoming fine later on. Johannesburg dropping to an overnight low of 11, peaking at 22 degrees. Pretoria 13 and 24, Vereeniging 9 and 22. Cape Town weather tomorrow, partly cloudy with a moderate southwester, a low of 15 and a high of 22 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni says South Africa will not consider funding from the International Monetary Fund, which would be accompanied by a structural adjustment program.
Eyewitness News. In touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, download the EW.
Today on Outlook, when Cliff de Vries was a teenager, he had one abiding passion: diving.
I trained about every spare moment I could. During lunchtime, I would change quickly and go into the pool, and I would do some diving. And then over the summers, I would ride my bike 5 miles up and down hills to the local university, and I would practice my diving there. It was so much fun diving. I just loved doing it all the time.
Cliff won a university scholarship and started training for Olympic trials. But then he started feeling pain in one of his arms. He assumed it might be a pinched nerve and got it checked out.
They found a large tumor in my spinal column. The doctors had the results, but they did not tell me. They told my parents. I came home and they asked me to sit down, and they said, "Cliff, you're going to die."
In fact, Cliff not only survived, but also learnt to walk and dive again. A remarkable story of resilience. After the latest news.
Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. The International Monetary Fund has issued a new forecast for the global economy, saying it will shrink by 3% this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. That's worse than after the financial crash a decade ago. Andrew Walker reports.
As recently as January, the IMF forecast that the global economy would grow this year by more than 3%. Now it expects it to decline by almost as much. It predicts large contractions of 5% or much more for the major developed countries. Some emerging economies, including India and China, which were expanding much faster, are still likely to grow, but much more slowly than before. The forecast assumes the pandemic will fade in the second half of the year and containment efforts will be gradually unwound. In that scenario, the IMF predicts the world will rebound next year with growth of 5.8%.
A vast store of DNA inputs called UK Biobank is being used to study why the severity of coronavirus symptoms is so varied. Rebecca Morell has more.
It's the pandemic's big mystery, why coronavirus affects people in so many ways, from those with no symptoms to others who need intensive care. Now UK Biobank could help to find the answer. It contains genetic material from 500,000 people and has followed their health for more than a decade. Now it will also track those with COVID-19. Scientists will be searching for small variations in people's genetic code. They want to see if there are differences that make it easier for the virus to enter cells and to examine the genes that affect the immune response. The hope is this work could identify those most at risk from coronavirus.
Police in Europe say they've foiled a cross-border scam that attempted to cheat health authorities out of millions of dollars by selling face masks that didn't exist. The EU's police agency Europol said buyers acting on behalf of the German health authorities were duped into paying more than $2.5 million via websites masquerading as those of legitimate companies. The money was recovered. The former US President Barack Obama has endorsed Joe Biden to be the next president of the United States. Mr. Obama made a specific appeal to the supporters of Bernie Sanders, Mr. Biden's former challenger in the Democratic race, to come together to defeat Donald Trump.
Even though he didn't mention his successor by name, Barack Obama's endorsement of Joe Biden served also as a denunciation of Donald Trump. Backing his one-time running mate, who served for 8 years alongside him as vice president, Mr. Obama spoke of the kind of leadership that's guided by knowledge and experience, honesty and humility, empathy and grace. This he contrasted with what he characterized as the ignorance and meanness of Republicans in the White House and on Capitol Hill.
You're listening to the World News from the BBC. New official figures in England and Wales suggest that many more people are dying from coronavirus than shown in the numbers released daily. The Office for National Statistics found that a tenth of deaths from COVID-19 are at home or in care homes. The daily figures only record deaths in hospitals. Today's total of virus-related hospital deaths passed the 12,000 mark. The European Union has donated $50 million to Nigeria to boost the fight against coronavirus, the latest in a series of support sent to Nigeria and other African countries by international bodies. Ishaq Khalid reports.
According to a statement from the Nigerian presidency, the funding will greatly help Nigeria in containing the virus and revitalizing its healthcare system. The Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari, told an EU delegation he was touched and grateful that the European Union had the foresight to help its allies around the world, despite the fact that its member countries are also struggling with the coronavirus pandemic. He said such support by the EU will save millions of lives in many countries.
A French court has ordered the online retailer Amazon to limit its deliveries in France to essential goods while it evaluates the risk to workers of potential exposure to coronavirus. From Paris, Hugh Stefford reports.
Arguing that Amazon's work practices are putting lives at risk from COVID-19, the union had asked the court to shut down completely the company's 6 depots in France where goods are handled, or failing that, to drastically reduce Amazon's sales and deliveries to items deemed essential, that is, foods and medicines. It's this second option that the court in Nanterre, just outside Paris, has chosen. Amazon has a day to comply, or it faces a daily fine of €1 million. The injunction won't be lifted until the American company has carried out, in consultation with unions, an evaluation of the health risks for workers.
That's the latest BBC News.
Hello, I'm Rajan Datta, and this is Outlook from the BBC World Service, giving you the chance to
number on March the 4th. These calls obviously receive a first filter because we have a series of questions that we ask, and in relation to these questions, we'll determine whether the person is a joke or not.
Gabon has already recorded 33 positive cases of COVID-19, with 1 patient cured and 1 dead according to the April 7th report. The country has been under partial curfew for 3 weeks. More than 22,000 deaths, making it the world's most bereaved country, the United States. Over 1,500 COVID-19 related deaths were recorded in barely 24 hours, a figure that has been declining for the past 2 days. But New York's epicenter continues to pay a heavy price with more than 9,000 deaths.
I'm seeing young patients, old patients, people of all age ranges who are just incredibly sick. And you can even hear it now that as I'm walking through patient rooms in the hallway, you just hear oxygen, the sound of the pulse ox through. So as you can tell,
cases of coronavirus have been diagnosed across the United States.
My God, we really have some fearless.
But as elsewhere, this number is far below the reality because testing is not systematic.
Completely safe.
As in Europe, the Christian community had to find alternatives to celebrate Easter and churches remained deserted, including St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. COVID-19 has also taken a heavy toll on the U.S. economy. More than 60 million Americans are out of work. Under pressure from the White House, the chief government expert does not rule out a gradual and localized reopening of activities from May. But he puts one condition on it, that there are enough tests to detect and isolate the sick.
Most people might be bored of the view from their windows, particularly those under lockdown to curb spread of the coronavirus. But 37-year-old painter Frank Laws is turning isolation into art. And it turns out people want a copy.
Originally, because I was suddenly found myself out of work, and I need to keep myself busy, and a friend of mine suggested doing some commissions, or I often paint tiny little preliminary sketches for my larger scale works. So yeah, he suggested selling some of those or trying to get people interested. And in the past I've painted views out of windows, so I thought, why not put the word out to see if people will send me photos of their isolation views and I'll paint their views.
Laws says it has helped him deal with his own isolation, giving him a routine every day. His studio isn't far from his East London flat, but he's not been living there. Law says he originally began painting people's window views back in 2009 when he was working on a project that focused on isolation in big cities.
There's a lot of tension outside with people, even like with distancing and stuff like that, but there's also like a bit more of a communal, we're all sort of going through this together really. It's like a moment of that time that we can all remember upon post whatever happens. Not really know yet, but it's like a collective thing that we've all gone through together.
The artist is now busy working on a commission from Glasgow. He's also had requests from New York, Paris and Denmark.
Seeing this as like a project within itself for this period of time, but then I'd like to take it after this. I'll scan all the images. I'm thinking about up to 100 probably. And then, propose an exhibition with it. Probably reproduce the images because the originals will be sent back to the people that bought them. And try and get an exhibition and possibly make a little edition, a book out of it, a little publication.
Laws has been overwhelmed with requests since first announcing the project on photo sharing site Instagram. He doesn't plan on painting them all. They take around a day each from start to finish. Now he hopes to paint about 100 and eventually stage an exhibit. He'll call it Isolation Views. In Libya, forces backing the unity government say they've captured 2 strategic cities in the west of Tripoli Monday. A fresh blow to Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar a year after he launched an offensive on the capital. I salute all the Libyan revolutionaries everywhere, and I salute Sabratha particularly on the occasion of its liberation today. God willing, Sabratha will become a safe city in the hands of the revolution of February, in the hands of the GNA forces and the Libyan government. What the Libyan people are hoping for is democracy and the civil rotation of power without military rule. A spokesman for the Tripoli Allied Forces, Colonel Mohammed Gunu, said they captured the city of Sabratha around 75 kilometers west of Tripoli. On his force's official Facebook page, he said they had also taken the town of Soman, 60 kilometers west of the capital. We assure everyone that we'll maintain security and invite members of the police and security forces from tomorrow to come and assume their duties. The incident ignited rocket attacks on Tripoli that injured at least one person and damaged houses in a residential vicinity. There was no immediate comment from Haftar's self-styled Libyan armed forces. Meanwhile, the UN office in Libya has condemned an airstrike that hit an ambulance near the western city of Misrata, killing a paramedic.
Besides the coronavirus pandemic, people in some parts of Africa are bedeviled by another kind of plague. The biggest locust outbreak some countries had seen in 70 years. The second wave of the insects, 20 times the size of the first that invaded crops and vegetation a few months back, reports say. Countries including Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia have been deeply affected.
We are likely to have a two scenario, the corona effect and the food insecurity in the country, because most of the affected areas in the country, the crop, the vegetation, the pasture, the rangeland has been seriously affected, and that combined effect can have disastrous catastrophe in the country.
Natusumbua, wanakula nyasi, wanaingia mpaka hadi manyata, alafu wanyama wakikula hii nyasi naanza kukohoa. Hata ukijaribu kuna zingine zinakufa, ukichinja kuna hiyo vinyesi yao iko ndani ya tumbo. So bila shaka naona kama inadhuru sana hasa kwa afya ya watu, kwa afya ya wanyama, naona na mazingira pia.
The UN has raised its aid appeal from $76 million to $153 million, saying immediate action is needed.
As the number of COVID-19 cases and fatalities in the DR Congo shoot up, a disinfection exercise of major public places in the capital, Kinshasa, was launched on Sunday. The operation will last 10 days with firefighters and the Ministry of Health officials cleaning up an area of about 3,000 hectares in response to the pandemic.
L'impact, c'est pour
The impact is to decontaminate secretions dead on areas that have been touched. People can contaminate places and buildings as well as entrances when they speed here and there. That's why we are doing this, because we want to minimize the impact of COVID-19. A lockdown was implemented in the residential areas of Gombe, where the first cases of the coronavirus were reported. The DR Congo has confirmed 234 positive cases of the coronavirus, with 16 recoveries and 20 deaths recorded so far.
In Morocco, in the midst of confinement, solidarity is being mobilized. Insaf NGO zips through the streets of Casablanca to help single mothers. Every day, volunteers from the National Institute for Solidarity with Women in Distress package food for women hard hit by the crisis caused by coronavirus. Following this epidemic, which affected everyone, we thought of our beneficiaries, and we tried to make sure that these beneficiaries lack nothing. And so for the past 2 weeks, we've been trying to prepare basic foodstuffs. The association targets families from Casablanca, the capital, and those who are landlocked in the outskirts.
For
this operation, we're preparing 400 baskets that will distribute in the province of Shishawa in the city of Marrakesh, and particularly in isolated areas. It is an operation which comes after the next operation, which targeted the two regions of Shishawa and El Hahouz, of which 300 baskets were distributed to needy families. Since the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, millions of euros have been mobilized by Morocco to try to cushion the vulnerable. However, access to this aid is still sometimes very difficult for the most vulnerable.